She tells you she wants a good man, a man who listens, a man who communicates, a man who respects her. She says this with her words, but her actions tell a completely different story. Because when the dangerous man walks into the room, when the man with the edge appears, when the man who breaks all her rules shows up, something shifts in her body, something she cannot control, something she will never admit out loud. And that something is exactly what Freud discovered over 100 years ago when he looked into the dark corners of female desire. Today, I am going to show you why women are obsessed with dangerous men. Not the fake dangerous, not the pretend bad boy, the truly dangerous man. The man who operates outside her rules. The man who triggers responses in her brain she does not even know exist. And once you understand this psychology, once you see what Freud saw, you will never be confused by female behavior again. You will understand why the nice guy loses every single time. And you will know exactly how to become the man she cannot resist. But I need to warn you before we start. What you are about to learn will anger you. It will make you question everything you were taught about women, everything society told you about attraction, everything your mother said about being a gentleman. Because Freud did not deal in comfortable truths. He dealt in dark realities, realities that most people refuse to face, realities that explain why women chase men who hurt them while ignoring men who worship them. So here is the brutal question you need to answer right now. Have you ever watched a woman choose a man who treats her badly? Have you ever seen her ignore the good guy who does everything right and run toward the man who does everything wrong? Have you ever wondered why she says she wants safety but responds to danger? If you answered yes to any of these, then you have witnessed what Freud called the thanatos drive, the death instinct, the part of female psychology that craves destruction, chaos, and the thrill of emotional danger. Freud discovered something that shook the world of psychology. He found that humans are not just driven by the desire for pleasure. We are also driven by the desire for pain, for suffering, for experiences that break us and remake us. He called this the pleasure principle versus the reality principle. And in women, this manifests as an unconscious attraction to men who represent danger, men who threaten their stability, men who could destroy them emotionally. Because deep in the female unconscious, there is a belief that only through danger can she feel truly alive. This is not a flaw in women. This is not a mistake in their psychology. This is how female desire is designed. And the moment you understand this design, the moment you stop fighting it and start using it, you become the most dangerous thing in any woman's life. You become the man she cannot forget, the man she cannot resist, the man who occupies her thoughts every single moment of every single day. And that power, that ability to dominate her psychology without force, is what we are going to build in the next 25 minutes. Before we dive into the psychology, I need you to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell. Because what I am about to teach you is not found in any dating book. This is not pick-up artist nonsense. This is Freudian dark psychology applied to modern attraction. This is the truth about female desire that women themselves do not understand. And if you want more content that goes this deep, that pulls back the curtain on human psychology, you need to subscribe. Do it now, then come back. Because the first Freudian principle that explains female obsession with dangerous men is about to blow your mind. Are you subscribed? Good. Because here is what Freud discovered that changed everything. He found that women do not choose men based on logic. They do not choose based on compatibility. They do not choose based on who treats them best. Women choose based on unconscious psychological patterns formed in childhood. Patterns they cannot see, patterns they cannot control, patterns that drive them toward specific types of men regardless of consequences. And the most powerful pattern of all is what Freud called the Oedipus complex in reverse, the Electra complex, where a woman's entire relationship template is formed by her relationship with her father. But here is where it gets dark. Here is where it gets dangerous. Freud found that women who had difficult relationships with their fathers, women who experienced emotional distance or inconsistency or even abuse, develop a psychological pattern, a pattern where they unconsciously seek to recreate that dynamic with romantic partners. They chase men who cannot fully love them. They pursue men who are emotionally unavailable. They become obsessed with men who hurt them, not because they enjoy pain, but because pain is familiar. And the unconscious mind always moves toward the familiar, even when the familiar is destructive. This is the foundation. This is where female obsession with dangerous men begins. In the unconscious patterns formed before she even understood what love was. And once you understand this, once you see how deep this programming runs, you can position yourself as the man who triggers these patterns. Not to hurt her, but to become the man she cannot resist. Let me show you how. Freudian principle number 1. The id and unchecked desire. Freud divided the human psyche into 3 parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. And it is the id, the most primitive part of the mind, that controls female attraction to dangerous men. The id operates on what Freud called the pleasure principle. It wants immediate gratification. It does not care about consequences. It does not think about the future. It only knows what it wants right now. And what it wants is intensity, excitement, risk, the feeling of being consumed by something powerful. The dangerous man speaks directly to a woman's ID. He does not ask permission. He does not negotiate. He does not try to be reasonable. He acts on his desires immediately. And when a woman encounters this, when she meets a man who is driven purely by his own wants without apology, something wakes up inside her. Her id recognizes his ID, and her unconscious mind says, "This man is real. This man is alive. This man is dangerous, and I want him." The nice guy, the safe man, the man who does everything right, he speaks to her superego, her moral conscience, her sense of what she should want. He is reasonable. He is considerate. He is predictable. And her superego appreciates this. It tells her, "This is a good man. You should choose him." But the superego does not create desire. It creates approval. And approval is not attraction. A woman can approve of you and feel nothing. But when you trigger her ID, when you awaken that primitive part of her brain, she feels everything. And feeling everything is what creates obsession. Here is how you apply this. You stop trying to be reasonable. You stop asking for her opinion on everything. You stop negotiating your desires. When you want something, you take it. Not violently, not aggressively, but directly. If you want to kiss her, you do not ask permission. You read the moment, you move in, and you take what you want. If you want to see her, you do not ask when she is free. You tell her when you are available and invite her into your world. This directness, this refusal to negotiate with her superego, speaks to her ID. And her id responds with desire. Freud understood that civilized behavior is a mask we wear. Underneath, we are all driven by primitive urges. The dangerous man knows this. He does not pretend to be civilized. He shows glimpses of the primitive underneath. And women respond to this because it is real, because it is raw, because it reminds her that underneath her own civilized mask, she has primitive desires too. desires she has been taught to suppress, desires she feels guilty about, desires that only come alive when a dangerous man appears. Freudian principle number 2. Repetition compulsion. Freud discovered something disturbing about human psychology. We repeat our traumas, even when we know they hurt us, even when we consciously want to avoid them. We unconsciously seek out situations that recreate our original wounds. Freud called this repetition compulsion, and it is the single most powerful force behind female attraction to dangerous men. Think about this carefully. A woman who grew up with an emotionally distant father will chase emotionally distant men. A woman who experienced inconsistent love as a child will be drawn to inconsistent men as an adult. A woman who had to work hard for approval from her parents will pursue men who withhold approval. This is not conscious. This is not a choice. This is her unconscious mind trying to resolve old wounds by recreating them. The unconscious believes that if it can recreate the situation, maybe this time it can get a different outcome. Maybe this time the distant man will become close. Maybe this time the unavailable man will commit. Maybe this time she will finally be enough. But here is the dark truth. She never gets the different outcome. The pattern repeats. The pain returns. And yet she cannot stop herself from chasing the same type of man over and over again. This is why women stay in relationships that destroy them. This is why they return to men who hurt them. This is why they ignore good men and chase bad ones. Because the bad ones trigger the repetition compulsion. And repetition compulsion is more powerful than logic, more powerful than self-preservation, more powerful than conscious choice. Now here is where you must understand something critical. You can use this knowledge in 2 ways. The low way is to become the man who triggers her trauma, to intentionally create distance, withhold approval, and hurt her so she becomes addicted to you. This works, but it is destructive. It damages her, and it makes you a predator. The high way is to understand her pattern so you can break it, to give her the experience of a man who has the qualities that trigger her attraction, the edge, the unpredictability, the strength, but who also has the integrity not to destroy her with them. Here is how you walk this line. You show her that you are not fully available. You have a life, you have purpose, you have standards. This triggers her repetition compulsion because it feels like the distant father or the unavailable ex. But when she meets your standards, when she shows up correctly, you reward her with depth, with real connection, with the thing she has been chasing her whole life, but never received. This creates a new pattern in her unconscious, a pattern where the dangerous man finally gives her what she needed. And when you do this, you do not just trigger obsession, you become healing. You become the man who breaks her pattern, and that makes you unforgettable. Freud wrote, "The aim of psychoanalysis is to turn neurotic misery into common unhappiness." What he meant is that we cannot eliminate pain, but we can transform destructive patterns into manageable ones. When you understand a woman's repetition compulsion, when you see what pattern she is trapped in, you can choose to be the man who helps her break free. Not by being safe, not by being predictable, but by being dangerous in the right way. Dangerous enough to trigger her attraction, stable enough to give her something new. Let me give you a concrete example. She tells you about her ex, how he was exciting but unreliable, how he made her feel alive but hurt her constantly. Most men hear this and think, I will be the opposite. I will be reliable. Wrong. If you become the opposite, you trigger no attraction. Instead, you say, he sounds like he had no self-control. Intensity without discipline is just chaos. You just showed her you understand intensity. You just showed her you have edge. But you also showed her you have something her ex lacked. control, discipline. And that combination, danger plus control, is what creates obsession. Freud's repetition compulsion explains why women chase men who remind them of their wounds. But it also shows you the path to becoming the man she cannot forget. Be dangerous enough to trigger the pattern. Be disciplined enough to break it. And watch her become obsessed not just with who you are, but with what you represent. The possibility of finally resolving the conflict that has driven her entire romantic life. We are two principles deep: the eyed and unchecked desire, repetition compulsion, and the recreation of trauma. And already you are seeing why women behave the way they do, why they say one thing and do another, why they claim to want safety but run toward danger. But we are just getting started. Because the next Freudian principles go even deeper. They go into the sexual psychology that Freud was almost destroyed for revealing. Stay with me. Because what comes next explains the darkest parts of female desire. The parts even she does not want to admit exist. Freudian principle number 3. The unconscious death drive. Freud shocked the world when he proposed that humans have not one but two fundamental drives. Eros, the life instinct, the drive toward pleasure, connection, and survival. And Thanatos, the death instinct, the drive toward destruction, dissolution, and return to nothingness. Most psychologists rejected this idea. They could not accept that humans might be driven toward their own destruction. But Freud insisted. And when you look at female attraction to dangerous men, you see Thanatos operating at full force. The death drive does not mean women literally want to die. It means they are drawn to experiences that threaten their psychological stability. Experiences that could destroy them emotionally. Experiences that represent danger, chaos, and the possibility of annihilation. The dangerous man embodies Thanatos. He represents the destruction of her safe world, the end of her predictable life, the death of who she thought she was, and her unconscious craves this destruction. Because destruction is also transformation, and transformation is the only path to feeling truly alive. Think about it. The safe man offers her stability, security, a comfortable life where nothing bad happens, but nothing exciting happens either. This is Eros, without Thanatos, life without death, pleasure without risk. And it bores her to death, not consciously. Consciously, she might appreciate it. But her unconscious, her death drive, it starves. It needs danger. It needs the possibility of destruction. It needs to feel that she is gambling everything, that she could lose it all, that she is standing at the edge of the cliff. And only the dangerous man brings her to that edge. Freud wrote, "The goal of all life is death." What he meant is that every living thing moves toward its own dissolution. And the human psyche is no different. We are drawn to experiences that threaten us because threat reminds us we are alive. Safety makes us forget. Danger makes us remember. And women, whose unconscious minds are more attuned to emotional states than men's, feel this pull toward danger more intensely. They need the dangerous man, not despite the risk, but because of it. Here is how you embody this. You cannot be completely safe. You cannot remove all risk from the equation. If she feels she has you completely figured out, if she believes she is totally secure with you, if she never fears she could lose you, her death drive has nothing to attach to. You become boring. You become predictable. You become the death of excitement. But when you maintain an edge, when you show her that you are capable of walking away, when you demonstrate that you have options and standards and a life that continues with or without her, You activate her death drive. You become the man who represents beautiful destruction. And she cannot stay away. Let me be very clear. This does not mean treating her badly. This does not mean abusing her or creating unnecessary pain. It means refusing to be completely domesticated. It means keeping a part of yourself that remains wild, unpredictable, and dangerous. It means she never fully possesses you. She never fully controls you. She never fully tames you. And that impossibility of complete possession is what keeps her Thanatos engaged. She stays because leaving feels like death, but staying also feels like dancing with death. And that dance is what creates addiction. Freudian principle number 4, penis envy and power dynamics. Now we enter the most controversial part of Freud's work, the part that got him attacked by feminists and critics for over a century. Penis envy. Freud proposed that women unconsciously envy male power, not the physical organ itself, but what it represents: autonomy, agency, freedom from biological constraint, the ability to take what you want without apology. And this envy, this unconscious awareness of a power differential, shapes how women relate to men. Before you dismiss this, look at female behavior with dangerous men. What does the dangerous man have that triggers such intense attraction? Power. Not power over her in the sense of domination, though that can be part of it. Power in the sense of self-determination. He does not ask permission from society. He does not apologize for his desires. He does not shrink himself to make others comfortable. He exists with complete autonomy. And women are unconsciously drawn to this power because it represents something they feel they lack. Not because women are actually powerless, but because female power operates differently. And the unconscious always desires what feels opposite to itself. The nice guy has no power. He apologizes constantly. He seeks approval. He modifies himself based on her reactions. He is reactive, not active. He is shaped by her, not shaping reality around him. And this lack of power kills attraction because her unconscious reads him as weak, as lacking the very thing she desires most: autonomy, freedom, the ability to exist without needing validation. Freud was not saying women are inferior. He was saying women unconsciously recognize and desire masculine power. And the dangerous man has this power in abundance. Here is what this means practically. You must operate from a position of power, not power over her, but power within yourself. You make decisions without asking for approval. You have boundaries that you enforce without explanation. You pursue your goals regardless of whether she supports them. You live your life on your terms. This is not arrogance. This is self-determination. And self-determination is the most attractive quality a man can possess because it signals that you have the power her unconscious desires. When she tests you, and she will test you constantly, she is not trying to annoy you. She is checking if you have real power or if you are pretending. If you bend to her tests, if you change your behavior to please her, if you seek her approval before acting, you prove you have no power. You are reactive. You are shaped by her. And her unconscious loses interest immediately. But if you hold your ground, if you remain unmoved by her tests, if you continue operating from your own center regardless of her reactions, you prove you have power. And power is what her unconscious has been searching for her entire life. Freud wrote, "The great question that has never been answered is, what does a woman want?" And here is the answer he discovered through decades of analysis. A woman wants a man who has the power to exist independently of her. A man who does not need her, but chooses her. A man who could walk away but stays. A man who operates from his own center, not from her approval. This is the power dynamic that creates obsession. Not dominance, not control, but absolute self-determination. The dangerous man has this. The nice guy does not. And that is why she chooses danger every single time. Let me give you a specific example. She says, "We need to talk about our relationship." The nice guy panics. He immediately starts trying to fix whatever she thinks is wrong. He asks what he did. He apologizes. He seeks her approval. This is powerlessness. The man with Freudian power responds differently. He says, "Okay, what is on your mind?" Calm, unbothered, willing to listen but not desperate to please. And if she brings up something unreasonable, he does not bend. He states his position clearly and lets her decide if she can accept it. This is power. And power creates attraction even in moments of conflict. Here is the challenge with these first 4 principles. For the next week, embody them. Speak to her ID, not her superego. Be direct about your desires. Understand her repetition compulsion and give her danger with discipline. Activate her death drive by maintaining an edge. And operate from masculine power in every interaction. Do not ask permission. Do not seek approval. Do not apologize for taking up space. Watch what happens. Watch how her energy shifts. Watch how she starts testing you more because she needs to know if your power is real. And watch how passing those tests makes her obsession grow. We are 4 principles deep. The ID, repetition compulsion, the death drive, penis envy, and power dynamics. And if you are applying these, you are already becoming a different kind of man. The kind of man women cannot ignore. But we are not finished, because the final 3 principles are the most dangerous. They explain not just why women are attracted to dangerous men, but why that attraction becomes obsession, why it becomes addiction, why it becomes something she cannot escape even when she wants to. Stay focused, because what comes next completes the picture Freud painted of female desire, the picture most people are too afraid to look at. Freudian principle number 5. The pleasure principle versus the reality principle. Freud discovered that the human mind operates on 2 competing principles. The pleasure principle, which demands immediate gratification and avoidance of pain, and the reality principle, which recognizes that delayed gratification and accepting discomfort leads to better long-term outcomes. Children operate purely on the pleasure principle. Adults are supposed to develop the reality principle. But here is what Freud found. When it comes to attraction, women regress to the pleasure principle, and the dangerous man is the only one who activates it. The safe man represents the reality principle. He is the logical choice, the smart choice, the choice that makes sense for her future. He has a stable job. He treats her well. He will be a good provider. Her conscious mind knows this. Her reality principle approves. But her pleasure principle does not care about any of this. The pleasure principle only asks one question. Does he make me feel alive right now? And if the answer is no, attraction dies, no matter how good he looks on paper. The dangerous man operates entirely on the pleasure principle. He does what feels good in the moment. He does not think about consequences. He does not plan for the future. He lives for immediate experience. And when a woman encounters this, her own pleasure principle wakes up. It recognizes itself. It says, finally, someone who understands, someone who chooses feeling over thinking, someone who chooses life over safety. And her pleasure principle takes over. It drowns out her reality principle. It makes her ignore every red flag. It makes her chase him, even when she knows it will hurt. Because in that moment, feeling alive matters more than being safe. This is why women make what seem like terrible choices. This is why they choose the broke musician over the successful lawyer. This is why they choose the exciting mess over the stable good guy. Not because they are stupid, but because their pleasure principle is in control. And the pleasure principle does not calculate. It feels, and what it feels is that the dangerous man offers something the safe man never can. The experience of pure, unfiltered, immediate pleasure. The feeling of being consumed by the moment instead of planning for tomorrow. Here is how you use this. You cannot be all reality principle. You cannot be the man who only talks about the future, about goals, about plans, about stability. Yes, you need purpose. Yes, you need direction. But you also need to show her that you live in the moment, that you can drop everything for an adventure, that you prioritize experience over safety, that when you are with her, you are fully present, not thinking about tomorrow. This activates her pleasure principle. This makes her feel that with you, life is happening now, not someday. Freud wrote, "One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful." But women living in the pleasure principle do not think about retrospect. They think about now. And the man who can give her now, the man who can make this moment feel like the most important moment of her life, wins. Every single time. Not because women are shallow, but because the pleasure principle is more powerful than logic when it comes to desire. Freudian principle number 6. Projection and the dangerous man as fantasy. Freud discovered that humans do not see reality as it is. We see reality through the lens of our own unconscious mind. We project our desires, our fears, our fantasies onto the world around us. And nowhere is this more powerful than in female attraction to dangerous men, because the dangerous man becomes a blank screen onto which she projects all her unconscious fantasies. Fantasies she has been suppressing her entire life. Fantasies she would never admit she has. Fantasies that only activate when she meets a man who feels dangerous enough to contain them. What are these fantasies? Freud spent decades uncovering them in therapy sessions with women, and what he found shocked Victorian society. Women have violent fantasies, sexual fantasies that involve dominance and submission, fantasies of being taken, claimed, possessed by a man who does not ask permission, fantasies of surrendering control, fantasies of being overwhelmed by male desire. These fantasies exist in the unconscious of most women, but they are buried, repressed, hidden even from herself. Until the dangerous man appears. The dangerous man does not trigger these fantasies through explicit action. He triggers them through implication, through the sense that he is capable of these things, that beneath his surface there is raw masculine desire that could consume her, that he has darkness inside him that matches the darkness inside her. And when she senses this, her unconscious begins projecting. She imagines scenarios. She fantasizes about what he might do. She creates entire narratives in her mind about the danger he represents. And these projections become more real to her than reality itself. This is why women fall in love with the idea of a dangerous man more than the actual man. Because the idea, the projection, contains all her unconscious fantasies. It is perfect. It is exactly what her repressed desires need. And the more mysterious he remains, the more ambiguous he is, the more space she has to project. The nice guy, the safe man, he is too transparent. There is no room for projection because she sees exactly who he is. He explains himself. He reveals everything. He leaves no mystery. And without mystery, there is no space for her unconscious fantasies to live. Here is how you become the screen for her projections. You remain ambiguous. You do not explain yourself completely. You do not reveal your every thought. You show her glimpses of depth, but never the full picture. You let her wonder what you are thinking, what you are capable of, what you would do if she gave you permission. And in that wondering, in that space of not knowing, her unconscious fills the gaps with fantasies. Fantasies that make you more appealing than any real man could ever be. Because you are not just you. You are you, plus everything she secretly desires. Freud wrote, "The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water." What he meant is that most of what drives human behavior is unconscious, hidden below the surface. And when you understand this, when you realize that attraction happens in the unconscious, not the conscious mind, you stop trying to logically convince her you are a good choice. Instead, you create space for her unconscious to project its desires onto you. You become mysterious, ambiguous, dangerous, not through action, but through implication, through the sense that there is more to you than she can see. And that sense of hidden depth is what makes you irresistible. Let me give you a concrete example. She asks, "What are you thinking?" The nice guy explains exactly what he is thinking, every detail, every thought. He believes honesty builds connection. But what it actually does is remove mystery. The man who understands Freudian projection responds differently. He smiles slightly and says, "Nothing you need to worry about." Or he says, "Just watching you." These responses create space. They suggest depth without revealing it. They imply that his thoughts are darker, deeper, more complex than she can access. And in that space, her unconscious begins to project. She imagines what he might be thinking. And whatever she imagines is more powerful than whatever he could have said. This is why the dangerous man dominates her thoughts. Not because of what he does, but because of what she imagines he could do. Her projections create obsession. And projection only works when there is mystery, when there is ambiguity, when there is the sense of hidden danger that her unconscious can attach its fantasies to. You become that sense of danger not by being explicitly dangerous, but by being impossible to fully know, by keeping parts of yourself hidden, by remaining always slightly out of reach of her full understanding. We are 6 principles deep now. The id and immediate desire, repetition compulsion and trauma recreation, the death drive and attraction to destruction, penis envy and power dynamics, the pleasure principle versus reality, and projection and fantasy. Each principle builds on the last. Each one reveals another layer of why women are obsessed with dangerous men. But there is one final principle, the darkest one, the one that explains not just attraction, but addiction. The one that shows why women cannot leave dangerous men even when they want to, even when they know they should. Stay with me, because principle number 7 is about to complete your understanding of female psychology at its deepest, darkest level. Freudian principle number 7. Transference and emotional addiction. This is Freud's most powerful discovery. The one that explains not just why women are attracted to dangerous men, but why that attraction becomes unbreakable. Why she cannot leave even when she wants to. Why she goes back even after he hurts her. Why she becomes completely addicted to a man who destroys her. Freud called this transference. And once you understand it, you understand the mechanism behind female obsession. Transference happens when a woman transfers feelings from her past onto you in the present. She projects onto you the role of her father, or her first love, or the man who hurt her most deeply. You become the stand-in for an unresolved emotional wound. And once this transfer happens, her feelings for you are no longer about you. They are about the person from her past you represent. They are about the wound you have activated. They are about her unconscious attempt to finally resolve something that has haunted her for years or even decades. The dangerous man triggers transference more powerfully than anyone else. Why? Because he recreates the conditions of her original wound. The emotional distance, the inconsistency, the unpredictability, the sense that she must work to earn love. All of these mirror her earliest experiences with love, usually with her father. And when you recreate these conditions, her unconscious does not see you. It sees him. It sees the original source of her wound. And it believes that if she can finally win you, if she can finally make you stay, if she can finally be enough for you, then maybe she can heal the original wound. Maybe she can finally resolve the pain she has been carrying her whole life. But here is the trap. The wound never heals. Because you are not actually the person from her past. You cannot give her what she needed from him. You cannot undo what happened years ago. But her unconscious does not know this. So she keeps trying. She keeps chasing. She keeps investing more and more emotional energy into making you love her the way she needed to be loved back then. And this creates addiction. Not to you, but to the possibility of resolution. The possibility that this time, finally, the story will end differently. Freud wrote, "Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Transference is how buried emotions come forth. The woman who cannot leave the dangerous man is not weak. She is not stupid. She is trapped in transference. She is fighting a battle with her past, using you as the battlefield. And until she becomes conscious of this pattern, until she sees what she is really doing, she cannot escape. She will return to you again and again, even when logic screams at her to run. Now here is where you have a choice. You can exploit transference. You can intentionally trigger her wounds, keep her addicted, and use her pain to control her. Many dangerous men do exactly this. They instinctively understand that creating the same pain she experienced in childhood makes her bond to them more deeply. And it works. But it destroys her. It prevents her from healing. It keeps her trapped in cycles that steal her life. This is the path of the predator. And if you take this path, you are not a man. You are a parasite. But there is another way. The path Freud himself advocated. The path of consciousness. You can understand transference so deeply that you recognize when it is happening. You can see when she is projecting her father onto you, when she is recreating her past trauma, when she is fighting old battles using you as the opponent. And once you see this, you can choose to break the pattern instead of reinforcing it. You can be dangerous enough to trigger the transference because that is what creates the initial attraction. But conscious enough to help her see what is happening. Strong enough to refuse to play the role of her wound. Here is what this looks like in practice. She is having an emotional reaction that seems disproportionate to the situation. She is angry or hurt or desperate in a way that does not match what actually happened. Most men either react with anger or try to fix her emotions. Both responses fail. The man who understands transference responds differently. He remains calm. He does not take her reaction personally. He says, "This feels like it is about more than what just happened. What is this really about?" This question creates a crack in the transference. It invites her to become conscious. And consciousness is the only thing that breaks the pattern. When you do this, when you help her see her pattern instead of exploiting it, something powerful happens. You become the man who was dangerous enough to trigger her deepest wound, but strong enough not to destroy her with it. You become the man who activated her unconscious, but helped her become conscious. You become healing and danger at the same time. And that combination creates a bond that is stronger than addiction. It creates genuine love. Not love based on transference, but love based on being seen, being understood, and being helped to grow. Now, let me show you how these 7 Freudian principles work together to create female obsession with dangerous men. They are not separate. They are a system, a psychological architecture that, when activated all at once, creates a bond so powerful it feels like fate, like destiny, like she has no choice but to want you. It starts with the ID. You speak to her primitive desires. You do not negotiate. You do not ask permission. You act on your wants directly. This wakes up her unconscious. Then repetition compulsion activates. You remind her of her original wounds, the distant father, the unavailable ex, the pattern she has been repeating her whole life. But you are different enough to seem like maybe, this time, it could end differently. Then the death drive engages. You represent danger, the destruction of her safe world, the possibility of losing everything. And her unconscious craves this risk because risk makes her feel alive. At the same time, penis envy and power dynamics come into play. You operate from masculine power. You make decisions. You hold boundaries. You exist independently of her approval. And her unconscious desires this power intensely. The pleasure principle takes over. You make her feel alive now, not someday, not in the future, right now. And feeling alive in the moment is more powerful than any logical argument about the future. Then projection begins. You remain mysterious, ambiguous, and in that mystery, her unconscious projects all her darkest fantasies onto you. You become more than a man. You become the embodiment of everything she secretly desires, but never admits. And finally, transference seals it all. You become the stand-in for her deepest wounds, and her unconscious believes that if she can win you, she can heal herself. This creates addiction, not to who you are, but to what you represent. The possibility of finally resolving the pain she has carried her whole life. When all 7 principles activate together, when they layer on top of each other, you create something that feels almost supernatural, an attraction so powerful she cannot explain it, an obsession so deep she cannot escape it, a bond so strong she will fight to keep you even when you hurt her. This is the dark psychology Freud uncovered. This is why women are obsessed with dangerous men. Not because women are broken, but because dangerous men activate psychological mechanisms that have existed in the female unconscious for millions of years. Mechanisms designed to seek out powerful mates. Mechanisms that prioritize feeling alive over being safe. Mechanisms that chase resolution of old wounds through new relationships. Freud spent his life exploring the darkest corners of human psychology. He was attacked for it, ridiculed, called a pervert and a fraud. But everything he discovered has been proven true through a century of clinical observation. Women are obsessed with dangerous men because danger activates their unconscious. And the unconscious is where all desire lives. The conscious mind thinks it chooses, but the unconscious has already decided. And what the unconscious wants is danger, power, risk, intensity, and the possibility of healing old wounds through new experiences. Now you have a choice. You can use this knowledge to become the predator, the man who triggers these mechanisms intentionally to control and manipulate. Many men do this. They become the toxic, dangerous man who creates addiction by keeping women trapped in their wounds. This works, but it destroys both you and her. This is the path of darkness without consciousness. Or you can use this knowledge to become something rarer, The dangerous man with consciousness. The man who activates her unconscious but helps her see it. The man who triggers her patterns but refuses to exploit them. The man who creates intensity but also creates growth. This is the path Freud himself advocated. Use knowledge of the unconscious to help people become conscious. Use understanding of darkness to guide people toward light. The principles I have shown you today work. Apply them, and women will be attracted to you in ways they cannot explain. The id, repetition compulsion, the death drive, power dynamics, the pleasure principle, projection, and transference. Master these, and you master female attraction at the deepest level. But mastery comes with responsibility. The more power you have over someone's unconscious, the more careful you must be with that power. Because you can heal or you can harm. You can help her break patterns or trap her in them forever. Freud's final wisdom was this: being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Be honest about why you want this knowledge. Do you want it to control women? Or do you want it to understand them? Do you want to exploit their unconscious? Or do you want to help them become conscious? Because the dangerous man women are obsessed with can be two things. He can be the wound that never heals, or he can be the catalyst that finally breaks the pattern. The choice is yours. Subscribe to The Shadow Mind if you want more dark psychology, more Freudian analysis, more uncomfortable truths about human nature that other channels will not touch. Hit that like button if this video opened your eyes to how female psychology actually works, and comment below. Tell me which Freudian principle hit you hardest. Tell me which one you have seen play out in your own life. Tell me if you are ready to use this knowledge responsibly, or if you are still tempted by the dark path. The unconscious is real. Female obsession with dangerous men is real. And now you know why. Now you know the 7 principles that create it. Now you know how to activate it. What you do with that knowledge determines what kind of man you become. Choose wisely. Because power over the unconscious is the greatest power there is. And with great power comes the choice: darkness or light, destruction or transformation, predator or healer. The shadow mind has shown you the mechanisms. Now you decide how to use them.